Hello, welcome to the AW Confidential podcast. I am so excited to have Kevin Savage on our episode today. He is known for his roles on BET's The Quad, also The Passage, and HBO's Lovecraft Country. On February 5th, you will see him as Andre in Lifetime's thriller Single Black Female. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being here. I'm really grateful and I'm so excited to ask you. First of all, congratulations on getting this role. I saw the original Single White Female. So I'm really curious about, first of all, for those listeners that that don't know anything about the original, can you just give us sort of just a little bit on the storyline and your role in the movie? I've done my research, but for listeners that have not.
Sure, no problem. So the movie is pretty much about a young female. She's in New York. She's doing a lot of great things with her career, and she needs a little help. She goes through a breakup, and so she puts an ad in the paper saying, "Hey, I'm looking for a roommate." And so she gets that roommate, but it was much more than she bargained for. And so it turns into spirals rather into like this just crazy like thriller, because the roommate actually she ends up pretty much wanting her life, her boyfriend, everything, and she sleeps with the
And are
boyfriend.
you the boyfriend?
Yes, I am.
Okay, okay.
I am. And I'm such a big fan of Jane Fonda, and so it was just really cool just to watch it. And so she ends up sleeping with the boyfriend. I mean, messing up her whole life. And so she has to figure out a way how she's going to reverse what's happened, and it could cost her life. So yeah.
So this role is different than, the roles that you've played, no? So
Yeah, definitely.
so how would you prepare or just get in the headspace to play this character?
So it wasn't too hard, I would say, because I've been in relationships where things went left, right? And so as a guy, it's like when I know I've messed up, I'm coming back, pleading, begging, baby, please take me back. So um,
It's funny because one of my questions has something to do with this. So it's it's
I
so
guess
funny.
I'm ahead of you.
Yeah, you are, because my next question is, so I feel that no matter what you go through, always, learn something from any situation. So what did you learn about yourself playing this character who got himself in trouble?
I learned that I can really beg. I'm really good at it, actually. Um, but I also got to and shout out to Sherry Carpenter, who's the director. I mean, we really had fun, and of course, I played the opposite of Raven Goodwin, and we just all really just had so much fun just playing. But I learned that I can really like up my game because the stakes are really high. I mean, come on, like I'm a guy, I'm a boyfriend who messed up, and so I need to make this right, right? And so I'm doing everything that I can, but there is a little twist. So I'm not
Oh,
totally this guy who's just this jerk, right? And that's when you'll see when you watch it, you'll see like, okay, he did mess up, but it wasn't completely all his fault.
so he's not a bad guy.
He's not a bad guy. And
Okay.
I'm glad we're going to touch on that, because like I've played roles where I was like the player or just the jerk and stuff. And when I was reading it, it kind of came off that way, but I chose, as an actor, you have an opinion, and you have to make sure that your director knows what your opinion is, so that way it kind of works together to what their agenda is, right? And so fortunately, Sherry let me do that. And my opinion was, I'm not this jerk. I'm really a good guy who actually loves Monica. And so it was just so much fun playing character.
I love that you touched on that because, I know for myself, I won't speak for anyone else, but we're quick to sort of, jump the gun and assume that the guy messed up and, it's kind of black and white, but it
Mhm.
sounds like it's not so black and white.
Right. It's really, yeah, it's really not. And so I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, and so there were a lot of moments, I would sit back and as we're filming and stuff, and I'm just coming up with just different ideas as to what I want my character to really say and show, in this movie. So yeah.
So was there any piece of you that was, how do I explain? When you played this character, was there any quality or piece of the character that you were able to connect with personally?
Oh yeah, I mean, pretty much the whole whole character. I mean, and that's why it's funny because I actually didn't audition for Andre. I auditioned for another role, and so when I went in the room and shout out to Winston Sinclair. I auditioned and then they were like, we think that we loved your audition, but let's see what you can do with this Andre guy. And it was about a 4 to 5 page scene. And so I go out and I come back in like 3 minutes and I'm like, oh my god, like this is, I mean, it was so
So
easy.
you connected to
i
that
connected
character.
i connected and as actors we have to, you may not always have time to really break down the script and all of that. So you have to find commonalities. You have to find what you connect with first. And being a trained actor, when you're in those moments where you have a few minutes to really kind of connect with this character because you're auditioning for that role, you have to know where to find, these moments where you can relate and really show that in the room. So yeah, and that's what happened.
I love that. Thank you for being so honest and just sharing.
Oh yeah,
I think it's important that we share our experiences.
for sure.
So you mentioned that, you know, s- so this character gets himself into trouble.
Hmm.
And I'm wondering, when, you got yourself into a little bit of trouble in your relationships, how did you sort of, spin that around, or learn from that experience? And you don't have to tell me what happened, but
I see
um
where you're going. I love it. I love it. I love being asked these questions. You know, because it's only through experiences we can learn, right? And so there was one particular situation. I was with someone for about 8 years. But it's so funny because just because you're with someone that long, you kind of gotta kind of check your relationship to see, if you're with them for the right reasons. And once one thing that will kind of I guess blind you would be comfortability. I mean, because when you become comfortable with someone, they know you, you know them. You don't necessarily even have to be in love anymore. You don't
it's
necessarily.
safe.
It's safe, right? And we all like to be in a safe place because who feels like going out finding another girlfriend or in your case a boyfriend or whatever and so I had to really evaluate the situation and self-evaluate and say, okay, why am I in this, right? And so once I really understood what was going on, it hurt, it's painful, um, but I had to like really kind of like say, hey, this is not where I need to be. And through those years, there were things that I did that kind of let me know, like, hey, why are you really in this? Like, and so I think it's important. I think it's important to kind of gut check and make sure that you're in the relationship for the right reasons. And if you're not, you have to get out of it, no matter how much it may hurt you, no matter how much it may hurt the other person, because in the long run, it's a better situation for the both of you. And
So what did you, and I completely agree with you. I think oftentimes, we stay in certain relationships too long for that reason. So, what did you learn about that experience?
Well, I think the introduction of a relationship is very important, right? So for me, I was younger, and to be 200% with you.
I love 200%.
I just wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for a relationship. I was younger. I was getting a lot of ladies, a lot of attention and stuff, and so I kind of was playing around. I mean, and so when I met this particular person, I thought that I could kind of do the same with her, and it kind of you know, um, what's the word? Can't think of a word. Backfired. It backfired
Backfired.
on me. Because I ended up loving her as if I was in love with her.
Wow.
And if you're not really, and let's just be even more real. Like, you can fall out of love with a person. That doesn't mean that's not the person for you. It's just, if you're not doing the things that you need to do that initially brought you together, then that will happen. So you have to constantly find ways to bring that back, that relationship back, that fire back, right? And so, but I was in it for the wrong reasons anyway. It's just I ended up loving her because I didn't know that she was the type of person. I mean, very intelligent, very caring, very kind, very loving, all of these things. And I needed that at that time, not knowing how much I needed that. And so, and then over the years, I'm just like, wow, like, I had to really, like I said before, I had to really like evaluate the situation, and I got so comfortable, and I started doing things that was just like, not good. And I'm like, why am I doing these things? And so, um, so I had to really stop and check myself and come back to the drawing board and say, hey, listen, this is where I am, and I'm so sorry, but this is where I am. And and what's kind of crazy is the other person, like, she knew it.
Well, women, we know. Intuition tells us we know when
Yeah.
something is not working, but we just kind of push through.
Mhm.
I'm really grateful that you shared that because truth is women tend to share more than men. So, the fact that you're sharing that experience, I appreciate you for doing that. I'm sure a lot of listeners will appreciate your experience and what you're saying because it resonates. I totally get it. So, one of the things that I like to do when I'm closing interviews is find some sort of positive or takeaway for listeners. So my question for you, and I'll give you a couple seconds, but from what I gather about the story, and I did see the original, but this one has a twist. This character makes a or some costly mistakes in his relationships, and you sort of touched on that.
Mhm.
And I think, like I mentioned before, this is definitely going to resonate with both men and women because we've all made mistakes, sometimes at the cost of losing someone or something we care about.
Mhm.
So my question is, what advice would you give someone facing a situation like this, and maybe not exactly like your character, but
Right.
just someone that failed to do the right thing? What would be your advice?
Um, so I would say, so in life, right? If we don't learn whatever it is that we need to learn in the situation, um, then unfortunately we face that situation again and again and again, right? So, if you continue to not see what it is you need to really pick up, then unfortunately it's like you're a hamster, running and running on that little circle, and just, so you're not going anywhere. So I think for me, you have to really self-evaluate and say, okay, what is it that I need to learn in this situation? You may miss it the first time, but when it comes back, and it will, um, what is it? What is it that, is it me? Am I being selfish? Am I, just thinking about myself? Um, do I really care enough about this person to like be in this situation? Um, and so, once you do that, once you stop being so selfish, because the underlying issue is being selfish. Rather, you
Yeah.
don't want to break up with the person, because you don't want to be without them. They're so comfortable to be with.
That security
Look,
blanket.
it's cuffing season. You know, when it's 20 degrees outside, you don't want to be, you know, it's
We're
just
human. We're
we're
human.
human, right? Um, but at the same time, it's like, okay, if I've done this before, you know, and it didn't work out, and now I'm in the same situation. Why didn't it work out? What am I doing? Right? Self-evaluate yourself first, right? It was kind of redundant, but you know what I mean. And so, do that first. Do the work first, because when you get out of a place of selfishness, then you can be honest with yourself. You can love yourself, and then you can put others before you. And that's to me, that will like eliminate a whole lot of issues that can come in the future. And it ultimately is about bettering yourself and making yourself a better person.
Oh, wow. You are amazing. I mean, I don't know you, but I could feel the growth. And there is so much that I connected with because I have been down that journey. I was married for 10 years. I had the divorce and I
Um,
went through the pain. And I went through a depression after that and I came out on the other side. And this is who I am today, and I embrace everything that's happened and I've learned tons from it. I'm a better person. So the fact that and I love, talking to men that have gone through the process because a lot of times we forget men go through the same thing too. Maybe later, but they go through it. So I am so grateful that you shared that with us and that you are here today. And my last question is, I'm sure that our listeners will want to find you. So let us know where we can find you. And please repeat the premiere of the movie and the details.
Definitely.
I'll
So,
be watching.
single black female, starring Raven Goodwin, Janet Hubert, Kay Michelle, Amber Riley, and myself, will be debuting and airing on Lifetime February 5th at 8 p.m. Eastern. And you can find me, Kevin Savage Brand, and also Kevin Savage on Facebook.
Thank you so, so much for being here. I'm grateful to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, listeners, for joining us on another episode of the AW Confidential Podcast. Talk to you soon.